Okay. Hello. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education business meeting of Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Let's rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Natalie, will you reiterate our executive session motion?
Sure. We met in executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to tonight's meeting. First off, we get to celebrate our students who are exploring their own paths to excellence as we honor our National Merits semifinalists and participants or alternates in NYSSMA's all-state performances. I'm also excited to hear from Dr. Champ and Dr. Fitzgerald about their trip to Albany this week to see Mr. Johnson receive his Principal of the Year Award at the Board of Regents, also an incredible achievement. Also tonight, we have our auditors here. They will present findings of their annual audit of the district's financials. It is important and reassuring for the board to hear from a third party with experience with many other school districts that our district is being run in a fiscally sound manner and following best practices. As part of our Finance Committee update, I think Jim and Will share a little on how we will consider options for financing our district's facilities updates, and that we will do a deeper dive on that topic at our next board meeting. And that's for tonight, and here are some just additional updates. We had a record turnout, I think I'm calling it a record turnout, of our board coffee at J Cafe last week, which also served as a meet and greet for Ms. Comiford and Dr. Fitzgerald. We have another one scheduled for next Thursday, so please try and come by if you want to discuss happenings in our district. Dr. Champ and I reviewed applications from the community for our committees, and invitations to join committees were sent out last week. Thank you all to each of you who applied and for your willingness to serve the school community. And then I have one final update. On Friday, Mayor Mullen and I will have a private discussion along with the lawyers regarding the village's stormwater project at Julian's Playground. I thank the mayor for his willingness to engage with me. I'm committed to building on this dialogue as quickly as possible to reach a resolution for the sake of our community affected by flooding. With that, let's get started with our student recognition.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to actually move over to the other microphone, and I'm going to invite Mr. Llewellyn, our Pelham Memorial High School principal, to join me there. So thank you. As was just said, honoring our students and their individual path to excellence is something that is probably one of the biggest joys that we can have as educators. And it's always exciting to me to see, especially, I was a high school principal, so high school is near and dear to my heart, and it's the time when you finally see students coming into their own, having achieved really all that has been built on the foundation of elementary school and middle school, finding their niche, finding their strengths, finding their talents, and knowing of what those next steps might be, and putting their nose to the grindstone to deliver on really what they know they can produce that's going to position them for that next step beyond high school and into college for most of our students. So it's very exciting to be here tonight to honor those students who were recognized first through the National Merit Scholarship Competition. National Merit Scholarship Competition is something that is been in place for many, many years, and students are identified based on their PSAT scores. So we have been really fortunate in Pelham to generally have folks identified each year. This year, I think this is the same way we had a banner board coffee. This is probably one of our biggest groups of commended students this year. So we've got a full house tonight, which is really exciting. So we have two different groups of students that we're going to recognize. And as I call your name, I'd invite you to come forward. And I'm going to have Mr. Llewellyn help me hand out certificates. So I'm going to give these to you. They should go in order.
Okay.
Okay. So our first group of students being honored tonight, and I should say too, before I get to the names, congratulations, moms and dads and families. They would not be here without you. So let's give your parents a hand before we give you your certificates. They have provided the love, support, the resources, the encouragement, the discipline, the structure, and everything that you've needed to get here. So thank you to them for their commitment to helping you to achieve at such a high level. So first, turning to our National Merit semifinalists. These 4 seniors have earned recognition as National Merit semifinalists by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. They are among 16,000 students, only 16,000 students across the country, to be named semifinalists by scoring among the highest in their respective states on the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Semifinalists now have the opportunity to be named a National Merit finalist, those come out in the spring, and earn a chance to receive one of 6,870 National Merit scholarships, totaling nearly $26 million. So we will be looking forward to the spring to see if some of these names come back. So please join me in congratulating the following 4 students. And again, I invite them to come up to get their certificate. And we'll stay up here because we're going to want to do a picture too, as always. So please join me in congratulating Alexandra Herzog, Charles Johnson, Daniel Rodriguez, and unfortunately, Kara Rose Vitale can't be with us tonight, but we want to recognize her as well, and Mr. Llewellyn will accept that for her. So congratulations once again to our group. If you wouldn't mind, maybe we'll step back over here for a picture. I think Alex is ready for this. We'll do one group at a time. We'll let you guys go right in the middle. We will give you a chance to come up with your photos. Thank you. Outstanding job. And our next group of students are the National Merit Scholarship Commended students. These 12 students, again, this is one of our biggest groups in history, in my modern history. These 12 students have been named commended students in the National Merit Program. They are among 34,000 commended students throughout the nation who have been recognized for their exceptional academic promise. They placed among the top 50,000 students who entered in the competition nationally. We're so proud of them, and we believe that their exceptional academic promise is only beginning now. As they move on to college, we fully expect to see even greater accomplishments then. So again, big group. We're going to invite them up one at a time, beginning with Renee I. Kate Feldman. Jake Fellner. Luca Goodyear. Maxwell Hansen. Uma Hensharia, who's not able to be with us tonight. Grace Kiami. Oliver Laveling. Joe Martucci. Christopher O'Mara. Jeremy Tam. And Emily Shu. Okay, and while we're giving out awards, we have another group of prestigious awards to give out this evening. And again, I was a high school teacher, but I was also a high school principal. I was also a music teacher, so this next award is also something near and dear to my heart. And I'm very proud to announce we had 3 Pelham Memorial High School students this year who earned recognition as participants or alternates in the upcoming NYSSMA All-State Performances. That's New York State School Music Association. This is the highest level of music achievement that students can receive in New York State. So please join me in congratulating the following students. Grace Kiami. Invite her back up again. Grace was selected as a participant in vocal jazz. There should be a certificate in the same folder. In vocal jazz, jazz soprano voice. Okay. Next, Samantha Bonanno. And Samantha was selected as alternate for soprano 2. Congratulations. And finally, Elliot Levine. Elliot not able to be with us tonight, but we congratulate him anyways. He was originally selected as an alternate for both trumpet and violin, but he's now been accepted as a full participant in the All-State Symphonic Band on trumpet. So congratulations to Elliot as well. So Grace and Elliot will be performing in Rochester in December as part of the All-State Performing Ensembles. Congratulations to these fine musicians and to their music teachers, our wonderful music department, Mrs. Abeshouse, Mr. Fraungen, and Mr. VB. Congratulations. Ladies.
You have to make this official, right? Now,
All right. Thank you so much. And again, thank you families for coming out for this special honor. I know the board enjoys this. The district administrators, we enjoy it too. This is the results of so much work, especially at the high school level, so many years of outstanding work on so many people's part. Congratulations to our students. We wish you a fond farewell if you would like to go on. I imagine being the academic students that you are, you probably have homework. So have a wonderful night. Congratulations again. Great group. Oh my gosh.
I know. Let's move to the top.
She used to wear her hair
Oh, yeah, it's making it fun right.
okay, I was like,
She's like at play rehearsal right now, so she's not.
oh, okay.
Okay, should we go? Or do we? Yeah, it's over here. Okay, we can move to 3.2. And I'd like to invite O'Connor Davies to give the annual audit presentation.
This is Scott Nolan.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for coming, Scott.
nothing clears out a room like an audit presentation.
We were just making that joke.
I always think the big crowds are for me, but I guess I got to get over that.
One of these days.
Well, no, it's always great to follow, very good students. Okay, so I'm Scott Oling. I'm a partner with PKF O'Connor Davies, and I'm here tonight to go over with you the results of the annual financial audit that my firm conducted for the school district for the year that ended June 30th of 2024. I went over this with the audit committee last week in very big detail. So tonight is really more just for those who might be watching at home. I'm going to cover some required audit communications and then focus most of my discussion in these dozen or so slides on the school district's general fund, which is your primary operating fund. It's the fund that the voters vote upon each year to authorize you to spend the money that they give you. And really the most important part of this presentation will be the third big bullet on fund balance. And then we'll also just talk about your current, where you are with your current debt and debt service obligations. So we begin with what are required communications, what your folks' responsibilities are as relates to the audit, involve selecting and implementing appropriate accounting policies, making sure that the financial statements that we're auditing are done in accordance with what's known as U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. You have to have and maintain proper internal control over your financial operations, because if the controls are not good, then the numbers coming out of it will not be good. You have numerous financial laws, regulations, contracts, agreements that you are required to do, along with all your other compliance requirements. And of course, as the board, to set the tone at the top and making sure that the business office provides us with all the financial records that we request. What our responsibilities are for the audit is primarily to deliver the financial statement, and within that financial statement, you get 3 auditors' opinions. All right, so the main auditor's opinion is on the regular financial statements for the district, and we've issued what's known as an unmodified or a clean opinion on that. That's the highest form of assurance an auditor can provide any client. It basically says that we believe your financial statements fairly present what happened in the district financially. You also, as a school district, are required to have a yellow book audit, which is a federal term, and that is basically an opinion on those controls that I just mentioned, internal controls and compliance. And that has also been issued and is a clean opinion. And then lastly, there's a third opinion, because in this fiscal year you spent over $750,000 in federal dollars. We have to do a compliance audit for the federal government and make sure that in certain of those programs you spent the money the way the feds want you to spend the money. And so we did that compliance audit and have issued a clean opinion on your spending of your federal awards. We are required to communicate any fraud or illegal acts if we come across them. Thankfully, I can report we did not come across any of those. Jim and the folks in the business office do a wonderful job, so we didn't have any difficulties doing the audit. We generally don't have any audit adjustments to make because the books are maintained in such good condition, didn't have any disagreements. The audit actually began back in June, in the spring, where we do some preliminary audit work, where we review your claims paying process, payroll paying process, and so forth. Then we do the main audit. You're one of our first school audits up on the calendar each year. You get the books closed basically in 2 weeks after June 30th. And we're here for that week in July. And then the audit is completed later than that, and that's primarily due to delays from New York State. And we have to wait on pension information. All the schools have to wait on pension information from New York State so that we can complete the audit. So now to go over the numbers, this is a very high-level overview of your numbers. All of this information is in the full audit report that has been provided to you. But at a high level, you estimated revenues when you adopted the budget of about $86 million. And the good news is your revenues came in at just over $88 million. So $2 million positive variance there. On the spending side, you expected to spend about $83.6 million. And you found savings and only spent just under $80 million. There are encumbrances, which are purchase orders that are not expended in this fiscal year, but are expended right now. So on the expenditure side, you also generated a nice positive variance of $2.3 million. So when you come down at the bottom of the first column, you could see there's like a negative $4 million number. You actually anticipated spending more than you were going to take in. That was a planned use of your previously accumulated fund balance that you had. So that's why we say that you use $4 million of your savings account to help balance the spending plan. The budget got revised during the year. Jim would have come to you with additional requests to to take additional money from fund balance for certain items, primarily some transfers out to capital and so forth. So the planned use of fund balance was about $4.8 million. The good news is that when you look in the actual column and the third number up from the bottom, it does show a negative of $1.2 million. So your fund balance did go down $1.2 million. But again, compared to the plan, where if everything came in according to plan, your fund balance would have declined $4.8 million. So net of the encumbrances, that's what we call a budget variance, a positive budget variance of 2.2. You did 2.2 million better than your plan, okay? So, and we'll go over this in a key slide in a couple of slides, but the 1.2 million reduction of fund balance, you started the year with 22.6 million, and so you end the year, as you could see, with 21.4 million. That's a key number, and we'll hit that in a couple of slides. So now, just to take a slightly deeper dive into your revenues, this sheet summarizes your main revenues that you have. Obviously, like all other schools, or most schools in Westchester, the property tax levy is the primary revenue source. And school tax relief reimbursement, or the STAR program, is the portion of property taxes, people's property taxes, that are actually paid by the state to you. Those numbers, as you can see, there's no variance with the budget. As a school district in Westchester, you're guaranteed 100% of your taxes. The town is responsible for billing and collecting those taxes, and whether they collect them or not, you get your money, and they have to go after anybody who or businesses that don't pay. The third number is sales tax. Westchester County has an agreement with all the school districts and municipalities in the county, other than the big municipalities like Yonkers, New Rochelle, who have their own sales tax deals. So Westchester shares approximately 25% of its total sales tax collections with everybody. The sharing is based on a census. So right now, everybody shares based on the 2020 census, and that ratio, will stay the same until the next census in 2030. So the good news is that you estimated about 1.3, came in slightly higher, and slightly higher than last year as the economy, continues to grow. You charge tuition for out-of-district students, so it was pretty close to last year, slightly down. State aid is your second biggest number. As I'm sure you're all aware, finally the state fully funded the foundation aid formula, I think this past year, finally got there. Obviously, state aid is made up of many components, including the foundation aid, but transportation, building, excess cost aid, all these different things. So you had estimated about 12.7, came in at 13.4, so you did better than expected there, and a very large jump from the state aid from the previous year of $10.7 million. Use of money in property is just the New York State term for basically interest earnings. And as you can see, when interest rates have been high this past year, you were able to generate about 1.7, well over what you expected in the budget, well over what you took in last year. Of course, as you all know, the Federal Reserve just made their first cut to interest rates at their last meeting, and will probably continue to cut over the next year. So most likely, we've seen the peak of this number. And then because some of these other revenues did so well and did better than you had planned, you had also planned to bring in from one of your other funds, your debt service fund, $2.1 million to help offset your debt payments this year. It was determined based on the positive results from these other things that the money would stay in debt service and be used in a future year where maybe some things won't be as good. So very, very good result from the revenue side. And this slide just gives you a 3-year history of these revenues. So as I said, the property tax and the STAR money, kind of combined. And what you notice, and we see this at all schools, is the STAR money is dropping. And that's primarily because of a change that New York made to the STAR law, a couple of years ago, where now new homeowners, anybody who buys somebody's house, instead of, and assuming they qualify income limit wise, instead of that money being a credit on their tax bill and coming to you from New York State, The folks pay the full school tax and then get their own check directly from New York State. So as houses, turn over time, this will probably continue to decrease, and if they change income limits and so forth. But you budget the full amount of the total. So you could see you've had a pretty steady, moderate increase in your tax levy, tax cap compliant and so forth. And then you see the trend on the other revenues as well. So now we flip to the expenditure side of the equation. These are about 5 or 6 of the main categories that you have. Obviously, your budget is very detailed. You have hundreds of different lines when you adopt the budget. So I just picked out, the 5 or 6, biggest ones in there. Operation and maintenance of plant is really all the buildings and grounds type costs. You could see this year you spent about $5.9 million. There is money encumbered. There's usually a lot of money encumbered on this line at most school districts. You create purchase orders in this year, and then the work is generally done over the summer during the break time. So most of that encumbrance is probably already spent at this point in time. And again, those costs were up about $500,000 from the previous year. Teaching regular school is the main teaching code, so it's really the cost for all teacher, salaries, really all classroom related costs. So those came in at about $32 million this year compared to about $30.6 million last year. Again, a lot of it has to do with contractual salary increases, step increases, and so forth. Programs for students with disabilities, the special ed costs for the district this year came in, as you can see, about $8.1 million compared to about $7.5 million last year. We see that generally everywhere as a trend as well. Transportation, all the buses for the district, $1.6 million this year, about $1.2 million. We've seen that with a lot of the bus contracts this year that the cost is going up. So, just to find bus drivers and so forth. Employee benefits, all the benefits you provide your employees, contractually, legally, pension, health, FICA, workers' comp, all that stuff. So this year about $18.6 million compared to $17.5. The majority of that increase, of course, was in health insurance. And then transfers, these are transfers that go to some of the other funds of the district, primarily your capital fund, some of it your special aid fund for your grants. So you see a spike up this year, and that was like a planned use of your fund balance to send money to the capital fund for your capital type projects. So again, a 3-year history of just these 5 or 6 major expenditure codes. And even though you see kind of a jump from 23 to 24, from 69 to 75, remember a large part of that is in the transfer outline, almost like a $3 million jump, but that was a planned capital use of money. So if you kind of back that out, it kind of continued the trend, like 66, 69, it would have been about 72. So again, just normal, cost of living increases and so forth. This to me is the most important slide of the dozen or so slides I have. This is the fund balance. So after you take in your revenues and you have your expenditures, this is what you're left with. It's essentially your savings account. So as we said on the other slide at the bottom of the 24 column, you see the 21.4 million, down from the 22.6 million last year, but pretty similar to the total from 2 years ago. So fund balance is broken down into, as you can see in this district, many pots. So it's not just that you have like one savings account, you have, half a dozen or a dozen here. So the first part of fund balance is non-spendable for prepaid. You have to pay certain costs in June that really relate to the next school year, primarily health insurance. So because the cash goes out the door in June, even though it's not an expense of this year, we set that aside because you don't have the cash. So it's in fund balance, but you don't have the cash, so it gets set aside. So 2.3. But the biggest chunk of your 21 million fund balance, about 60% of it or so, maybe more, math, $12.7 million of the 21 million are in restricted categories. Restricted fund balance is only allowed under general municipal law or education law, but none of these can happen without board action. So you're doing it under the umbrella of what the state education law or general municipal law allows. So one of the things you have, the biggest one within that group is tax certiorari. Obviously, businesses, homeowners can file assessment grievances that they're protesting their tax assessment. So this is money that's set aside, so should you have to make refunds to businesses or individuals, you've already set aside money for that. You wouldn't have to tax people in the future to raise money for that. So that's what's there. You have a small amount for unemployment benefits, a small amount for what's called employee benefit accrued liability, which is vacation, sick time that would be owed to folks when they leave the district. You then have two numbers there related to the employees' retirement system. You're allowed to set money aside. There's no limit currently in the law. So you can set money aside and use these funds to help pay your employee retirement system bill. You've used $800,000 of the amount that was in there, of the total of about $3.3 million in your budget in 24-25. So you're using this pot of money to help offset that portion of your cost that's in your budget for this upcoming year. Then you've also set aside money for the teachers' retirement system. There are limitations on this one. You're only allowed to add to it 2% of teacher salaries per year, and the maximum in there can be 10% after 5 years. Then you can't add more to it. So you have $2.1 million available to help offset your teacher's retirement bill. That's your bigger pension bill. Currently, the rates are about 10% of certified payroll. But in years past, and Jim knows, that they were as high as 20%. So imagine having a budget double the amount. So if the stock market performs poorly and the pension system loses value in their pension, they're going to come to you for more money and more contribution. So this is a pot that you would be able to use to help offset should that increase, be significant. You did use $180,000 in this budget that you're in now to offset, property taxes. And then a couple of small ones for property damage repair. And then you did use, and we saw a big transfer out to the capital fund this year, you did take down your future capital reserve and are using that money for your planned projects. So that was primarily one of the big drivers of why the fund balance went down this year. So there's your total $12.7 million. Then we have two pieces that are in assigned fund balance. Purchase orders or encumbrances that just weren't completed, again, mostly for buildings and grounds. So that $1.4 million will roll into the budget you're in now. Probably most of it has been spent already. And then, in addition to the numbers up top where you gave back $800,000 for ERS and $180,000 for TRS, you also, to the property, taxpayers, gave back another $1.2 million. So if you put all those pieces together, Jim, what is that, about 2.3? So in other words, the budget you adopted for 24-25 or asked the voters to approve, you plan on spending about $2.3 million more than the revenues you're going to take in. Hopefully, like this year, things will come in better. You'll spend less than you anticipated. Maybe the revenues will come in more than you anticipate, and you won't have to use that fund balance, and then it'll be available for a future year. So that's 2.6 of the fund balance. So when you back out all these pieces, what you're really left with in fund balance is what's called unassigned fund balance, and you have $3.7 million. That number is only allowed to be 4% of your next year's budget, and as you can see based on the bottom, it is. So you have the maximum amount you can have in there. You have nice, healthy amounts in these reserves to be able to deal with, any problems that may arise. So it's really a very nice financial picture. And then as we get to the end here, these are some of the other funds that I mentioned. The Capital Projects Fund started the year with $5.7 million in it. We added this year the $2.8 million that was originally budgeted, and then additional amounts were sent over later in the year. And then there was spending this year of about 2.3. So you now still have about $6.2 million in there as of June 30th. Your debt service fund, which is basically there to pay your debt, your principal and interest on previously borrowed monies. And you could basically see that you moved $6.5 million in there from the general fund, and your debt service was $6.5 million. So you moved exactly what was in there. The revenue is just some interest earnings on the 2.2 million. So you have almost 2.3 million, which is available for future debt service payments. The school lunch fund for the lunch program, you brought in 991,000 this year. You spent about 1.1, so the fund balance is down to 171. I think some of it was equipment type purchases, which is what the school lunch fund balance. You're not allowed to have too much in there, otherwise the state will slap you on the wrist. You're supposed to spend it to improve the lunch program. Special purpose fund is basically, most of it is the extra classroom activities for the students, all the extracurricular stuff. So that's just the revenue and expense activity for that. And then you have a permanent fund where some folks donated money in the past to the district, and their stipulation was you can't use the money that we gave you, but the interest that you earn on it you can use for the purposes that we told you, for scholarships or whatever the purpose is. So there was just a small amount of revenue from interest earnings and what was provided in different scholarships. And then finally, just to show you where you currently are with your debt and debt service, you currently have 5 bonds outstanding going back to 2016. It has what the original amount of those borrowings were and where those balances are at the current time. So you currently have, on existing debt, you have $67 million outstanding that obviously has to get paid back to bondholders. And the bottom part shows you the first 5 years how much principal and interest you are required to pay back the bondholders each year. It generally looks like it's approximately $6 million right now. Again, on your budget, which is somewhere north of $90 million, you know, you're about 6%, and that's generally what we see at most of the suburban school districts that we audit. You don't want the debt service. It's generally not 1 or 2%, but it's also not, you know, 10, 12, 14%. So you're right in line with that. So that's basically all I had, and I'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Scott, I think, thank you for that. If you don't mind, go back to your favorite slide with the reserves. I just wanted to make an observation because it was interesting when we were talking in finance. I hadn't really appreciated this. Even if you take out the portions that are like ERS and TRS for next year, the I can't read it from here, but the top line, the prepaids,
Yeah.
and the assigned reserves, which are those sort of 3 lines, are all basically like prepaids from this year's budget that are being spent next year. So we talk about like a $21 million reserves, but $5 million of that is really sort of just carryover from one month to the next and is being spent over the summer. And I think when people look at these reserves, they don't necessarily always appreciate that. So that was an interesting observation that came out of our conversation the other day that I appreciated.
Thank you.
While we're on the subject of fund balance and reserve, so big kind of project for the district and for the board this year is we've just concluded a facilities condition survey, and that survey, in combination with changes in demographics and capacity issues, means that we now find ourselves at the early stages of a capital bond feasibility project. And generally, how do you think our financial position, how do you think our financial results position us for that? And specifically, how does the holding and use of reserves play into the bond decisions that we have to make?
Yeah, what I would say, and you can certainly talk with your your bond, your advisors, your capital, a capital markets advisors and bond counsel and so forth. That this is more of their specialty. But what I will generally tell you from my understanding is obviously a strong fund balance position with strong reserves going into issuing debt, you know, and especially significant debt for a big project. Having good reserves when the bond market values those bonds and you get bond ratings from a Moody's or a Standard & Poor's rating service, you would end up most likely with a higher rating. And when you have a higher rating, that generally results in a lower interest rate and interest on that debt. Maybe it's 1/10 of a point, you know, maybe it's I don't know, that those folks would know. But obviously even like 1/10 of a point because of your financial position over a bond that will probably have a 20-year life and you're going to be paying, you know, 20 or 30 years of interest on, 1/10%, you know, would be, you know, could be hundreds of thousands
Real money.
or millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think this bodes well for you, you know, going forward, you know, for that purpose.
So, when we reviewed it in Finance Committee, I think we calculated the debt service is currently 6 or 7% of the budget.
Is that right, Jim?
Can you just speak to, am I wrong?
Yeah, I think that's, your
Yeah.
budget for next year is 93? Yeah, so your debt service right now for this year is 4.7 plus the 1.8, so about 6.5 million.
Yeah. Can
So
you
you're-
speak to whether that's,
I think, you know,
healthy?
every district is different.
yes,
You know, a district that has buildings that are 100 years old versus a district that has buildings that are 30 years old are going to have different like
Different.
capital needs. So I always kind of look at it as what percentage of the budget is debt service taking, right? Because, you know, it's kind of like the federal deficit, you know, eventually, you know, what the debt service that the federal government is paying is a huge amount of the annual budget, and at some point is problematic.
Right.
So here, I think if, you know, if you're able to keep debt in that 6-7% range, it doesn't crowd out other things that you want to do. So I think, generally speaking, with other suburban, you know, districts in Westchester, that is generally what I see.
Yeah, we're at 7
Thank
right
you.
now, so I just did
Yeah.
the calc. And then for the board, we'll also have an opportunity with capital markets advisors at a future meeting who can provide some more capital market viewpoint and some information as well as to what to expect on a bond market.
And of course, if now we're in a, you know, a declining interest rate environment, it has the negative impact on your interest earnings. But on the other side, it will help you, you know, if you were issuing a bond in the last year or two, you'd have a much higher interest rate. So depending on the timing of this, hopefully you'll catch the wave when the interest rates are lower. And even if they're not lower, there's always an opportunity to do, and you have, as you see, refunding bonds. What that really means, it's just like you on your home mortgage, right? If you had a mortgage that was at 5%, and now you can get a mortgage at 4%, you're going to go to the bank and refinance it to have lower payments. That's exactly what the district did. That's what, in government terms, is called a refunding bond. You got rid of the old debt and took out new debt at lower interest.
And the only difference there is we don't extend term. So it's not like a homeowner. If you're
Right.
into year 20, you can go out another 30. That's
No.
not what we're permitted to do.
No.
So we maintain the same term.
One final question. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, which is, you know, you talked about the timeline. You said we were one of the first districts to be audited. Sounds like, you know, you are on a fairly accelerated timeline. Did you get everything you needed?
Yes.
Did you find it in good order?
Yes. Jim and Jackie and the rest of the finance team are really wonderful. And you almost have to be if you're ready for an audit 2 weeks after the fiscal year ends.
Right.
So that's a lot of work in those 2 weeks to get us a set of books that we could start auditing 2 weeks after the year ends, having all bank reconciliations done, having payables booked, receivables booked, all this stuff. And then we get to sit around and wait for New York State. They did not issue the pension information that we needed till Friday at 4 o'clock before Labor Day. So we kind of do all these audits from July through August. We get through probably 80% of our school district audits and can't issue any of them. And then everybody gets the data dumped the same day. Everybody sends us the stuff and says, can we have our report tomorrow? No, we can't do it. We have to, then we do it and we try to do the districts that went first, do them in the order that we did them. But it takes time to make sure all those numbers get into the report properly. It's just, it's a lot of work. And then once we do that, and my folks do that for me, and then I review the report, then it's at that point I send it to Jim and Jackie because they have to write, there's a portion of the audit report called management discussion and analysis. They have to put that together. I have to get that back. I got to review that. So it's a whole process. And then in addition to all that, we've also worked on the extra classroom audit report, and we've also put together the information to file with the federal government for the federal spending. So that has all been now completed at this point.
So if she's listening at home, salute to Jackie V. Hill for
Yes.
setting you up. Okay.
I wish I could clone her, to be honest with you.
So
Maybe one of these students could figure out how to do that.
I have a question along those lines. Like, it sounded like you got the information that you needed in time in
Yep.
a quick manner. We talked about the debt services. Were there any other recommendations or benchmarks that are worth calling out or that you would want us to be thinking about, for the future?
I honestly, I don't think so. I think you're in very good hands here with your finance team. And, there's always like a plan of using the fund balance, using a significant amount of fund balance in 1 year, but using it for a one-time purpose is okay. Using a significant amount of fund balance to help, lower a tax levy or not cut, spending is not a good thing, because then once you run through that, what are you going to do the next year? So using, if you generated more than you thought, and now, hey, we have a one-time purpose. Hey, we really need to redo the roof, on this school. You appropriate the fund balance. You don't have to tax the folks to do that. You generated this money that you didn't think you were going to have. You use it for a one-time purpose. You're good.
If I could jump into, related to their audit work, on the agenda this evening is an item called a corrective action plan. And those are just some items that were observed as part of their work, that is non-material, but certainly things that related to strengthening our internal controls and processes.
That was what
And
okay, thank
that's
you.
exactly what we will ask the board to approve that. That was discussed at the audit committee as well. These audit reports are all filed with the Office of State Comptroller by October 15th, Scott? Right?
Yes.
October 15th?
You have to, there's a portal for the State Education Department. They have Jim has all the electronic copies of the stuff, so it all has to be loaded up there by the 15th. Otherwise, the superintendent and the board president get a little
They get
nasty
a lot of
note
emails.
from
Yeah.
state ed.
We don't want
So
that.
Exactly.
that will not happen for you.
And then on the district's website, we maintain prior audits and corrective action plans as well. So that's also a part of the requirement.
Thank you. Thank you.
More questions? Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, we can move to 3.3, the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and really kudos to Jackie. She's just incredible. She really is. So it was, again, wonderful to honor our students tonight and to see their achievements, especially to have seen some of these students for so many years now. I know Dr. Fitzgerald's probably having this feeling, having seen many of them in elementary and now seeing them graduating. It's always fun and exciting and heartwarming, and then it makes you feel old, too. But mostly it makes you excited for them. So we're looking for great things. I just wanted to mention one more accolade tonight. We're inviting her to a future meeting, but we found out this past week that Maddie Horner won the prestigious Con Ed Scholastic Sports Award, which is one of the considered the biggest scholar athlete award in the area. So really excited for Maddie. She's a swimmer, and she's just really a wonderful, nice person, a very smart young lady, really hardworking. So excited for her, and looking forward to honoring her at an upcoming meeting. Additionally, this month, a couple things going on this month. It is School Custodians Day, actually, was Wednesday, I think it was the 2nd. So we want to just share kudos to with our custodial staff, our buildings and grounds folks. They are second to none of any district I've ever been in. They are just top notch, start to finish. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Some of the first people I met when I walked in the doors of this district were the custodians. And they were so professional, so kind, so helpful. It was just so impressive. And they worked day in and day out, so hard. So we just want to continue to extend thanks to them and appreciation for all of the wonderful things they do to take care of our students and our staff and to make sure that the buildings are ready, because as Jim says, we know school will open. Whether we're ready for it or not, it's opening. They make sure that we are always ready. So thank you to them. October is also Digital Citizens Month. Citizenship Month, Digital Citizenships Month. So special thanks I wanted to extend to Ms. Del Mastro, our instructional technology staff developer, Mr. Sabalos, and Dr. Callahan, who oversee technology teachers and support them across the K-12 continuum as they work to implement digital literacy skills across the curriculum. I hope I'm not stepping on toes of Pelham together on this. I just wanted to also express thanks to them for their partnership on a series of events and activities that they're putting together this month for the community in partnership with the district to promote healthy habits for students and families. So right here at the schools, speaking for us, our students across the spectrum are taught digital citizenship curriculum throughout the school year, not just in October, but we do like to feature it in October. They experience lessons that focus on responsible and safe online behavior. At the elementary level, students may be introduced to digital citizenship concepts such as online safety, protecting private information, media balance, cyberbullying, caring for devices through lessons that are taught within library class by our district elementary librarian. In technology class at the middle school, students get to go on a deeper dive into topics such as data privacy, media literacy, managing their digital habits, with special attention given to issues like digital media and the brain, posting on social media, phishing, recognizing internet hoaxes, and finding credible news sources. Once you get into high school, you start to shift area to, there's more specific courses. You get things in health class, topics like, in health, humanities, and social studies classes. Our high school students then are introduced to and explore relationships between digital citizenship and mental health, media literacy, civil discourse, and gaining a better understanding of the challenges and opportunities in the digital world. And additionally, throughout the year, the high school and middle school share resources for Common Sense Media with students. And of course, our middle school is a Common Sense Media school. So I just share all of that, and I know some more that similar information is going to be pushed out in some upcoming communications in partnership with Pelham Together, because I know folks don't often know all that goes on in school, and they see students and they see some of the issues or concerns. You watch the news, and we often have parents telling us we need to teach digital literacy and digital citizenship, and they don't realize we're doing it.
Right.
So I want to make sure that folks know that we're doing it. Of course, we're always redoubling efforts, keeping everything fresh and up to date, which is always an ongoing challenge. But it is something that the district has been taking very seriously for quite some time. So again, thanks to those folks who have been leading that curricular work for many years. A couple additional things I'll point out this year at the high school. There's a couple new committees that have been established. One is certainly a direct response to the board's policy from last year, asking the district to look more closely at use of digital technology at the high school. So that committee will be up and running this year. They're also putting together a committee to look at academic honesty in an AI world, which is a big challenge. A lot of districts are jumping to writing AI policies. We are not, because AI, for a lot of reasons, one of them being AI is such an evolving technology. By the time you actually get a policy through three readings, we've moved far beyond the limits of the technology. But also, one of the key approaches that a lot of districts have taken and that we are taking is focusing on looking at our academic integrity policies and things that are not necessarily specifically digital literacy, but speak to the core and the skills and the integrity that we want to teach our students in the digital world. So, so that committee is going to be looking at that. I will add as well, let me see where I put it in here. Additionally, within the district, our administrative team, thank you to those, is a voluntary thing that they're doing, but our administrative team and I are going to be starting a book study. I know that there might be mixed opinions on this book, but we're just going to put it out there anyways. We're going to read it, and we're going to, read some opposing opinions as well. But at the administrative level, we're going to do a book study this year on The Anxious Generation. Jonathan Haidt. It's a book that a lot of folks are reading. And it's, again, part of our own look at social media, digital device use. What does it mean for us? What are its implications for us as educators in our schools? And I will let the board know, we've bought all of you copies as well. So as soon as those arrive, we'll be sharing those with you. Should you want to, have any conversations around that, and again, just use it to inform thinking.
Thank you.
So, yes, sorry, we wanted to have them for Digital Citizenship Month. We just didn't get the order in time. So those will be coming. So just a couple more things, and this is, I know that Anne Marie could speak more verbosely about it, but Pelham Together, in partnership with all these efforts, is also bringing back the Disconnect to Reconnect, which is really exciting. Some of you may remember that from a few years back, where local businesses are partnering to support efforts for people to put their phones away and enjoy a meal with your family and friends, sans phone. So really excited about that. And then also putting on what looks to be a wonderful digital literacy workshop series for parents in particular, correct? Yeah. So more will definitely be coming from them about that. A couple more items before I turn the mic back over. October is also Principals Month. So we have Principals Day in the spring, but we also have Principals Month here in in October. And we were very excited, as has already been mentioned tonight, to be able to honor not just one of our principals, but our principal, Mr. Fareed Johnson in the doctoral program, who was recognized by New York State as the Principal of the Year at the elementary level. He was invited, and Dr. Fitzgerald and I accompanied him up to the Board of Regents meeting. And we were up there yesterday at the state education offices, invited right into the Board of Regents meeting, where they honored him and a high school principal from the upstate area. So it was really exciting to be there with him, to be part of that recognition, to be honored by a Board of Regent member who had actually known him earlier in his career, and was thrilled that I think it was probably about 15 years later that they crossed paths again, with him being Principal of the Year and her being a Board of Regent member. It was a great chance to reconnect as well with the Commissioner of Education. So someone I was fortunate to have on my dissertation committee. So it's fostered a long-standing, really wonderful opportunity to get to know her and follow her career, and to benefit from her wisdom and years of experience. So we got to spend a little time up there with her too. Really exciting. So that was our way of celebrating our Principals Month with Mr. Johnson. Really excited about that. Community engagement. This is two more things I wanted to mention. Just community engagement. Obviously, everyone knows open houses have been held at each of our schools with exceptional turnout. It is wonderful to have our families back in our schools. I still think about the years where we couldn't do that, so every opportunity to have our families in their schools is when we look forward to getting to come in, meeting with teachers, seeing the classroom spaces that where our students spend their days. So we're thrilled for the large turnout there. Also, we're well into our annual calendar of events with things like PTA meetings, picture days, college nights. We have an upcoming college fair on October 21st, curriculum nights, and various family school social events. So I just want to thank I don't know if folks know, Alex Wolf is the master behind the curtain when it comes to our schedule, which is nigh unto impossible. He starts work on that early, I think in June, and that takes throughout the summer. So it's a very complex puzzle to put together, but thank him for his efforts. I think I know, as the board knows and was already mentioned tonight, we're having our regular board coffees this year with using our district theme of We Are Pelham, What's Your Story? In addition to the normal board coffees, Tracy and I, Ms. Holtz, are actually going to be hosting a coffee and conversation for parents of our students with special needs. Just a chance to kind of have a more informal forum to speak with them. So we're targeting November 15th for that. We're hoping to be at Shea Station. You'll be hearing more from that. We just wanted to put that on everyone's radar, and just look forward to a more informal opportunity to sit and speak with our parents and get to know one another better and hear the concerns on their mind. And finally, school safety certainly continues to be a priority for us day in and day out. Tuesday's fire on Wolf's Lane is a good example of the importance of having systems, protocols, and being prepared for anything. So thanks to the administrators here, the staff who came out, Tom Drake, our first responders who were very quickly on the site. It was an ambulance fire right in front of right on Wolf's Lane, just past the entrance to Franklin. And I think folks know that at this point, it was not the new ambulance. I think it's really important. It was the first question after, is everybody safe? B, was it the new one? So no, thankfully it was not. But it really shows the benefit of systems. I think that was before arrival. That was while many staff were still arriving, students were en route to school, too late for us to think about doing things like delaying school. But the folks who were here knew the protocol, quickly communicated the needed information, came up with a contingency plan, rerouted any students coming to the middle school up through the high school, had a place to keep them safe and contained until it was safe to bring them back. And even prior experiences from long before Jim or I were even here, we've heard about a bus fire that happened here way back when. Lessons learned from that actually came in handy here, because as soon as that scenario of the vehicle on fire with potentially toxic smoke coming from it, the administrators and the building staff knew to shut the HVAC systems down, so we weren't then pumping toxic air into the schools. So lessons learned at every opportunity, and we really appreciate the opportunity to debrief and to work together as a team on that. So I think, as folks know, I'm just about done. Fire drills certainly have been in place since school started. This week now, we're beginning all of our lockdown drills. I think we're at the middle school, high school today. You can anticipate, wink, wink, a couple more to come in the next couple days. So we are using more trauma-informed practices this year as we do that, which of course involves notification to parents in advance. So folks should be seeing that in their Parent Square notifications. Also, what we've done internally is worked with our psychologist. Tracy took the lead on that with Tom Drake, and came up with kind of a script or some talking points of how we want to speak with students ahead of drills. So giving them a heads up, reminding them why we practice the drills, what the purpose is, how the protocols are meant to keep them safe, how they're conducted, and then also resources that are available to students for additional support, because we know that these kinds of things can produce stress and anxiety, and we want students to feel that A, that's normal, and B, that there are resources and support and help for that. So thank you to Tracy and the team for helping with that. And I will end there and pass it back to you for the rest of the meeting.
Can I add one thing? I wanted to say how great it was to see everything that the district is doing for Digital Literacy Month. It's actually in the Examiner, because there's a press release.
Oh, wow.
I think it should be there now, because there was a combined press release with that, along with the workshops that Pelham Together is doing. But the list of all the things that the district shares with the students, and like you said, not just for the month of October, but ongoing, was extensive. And I think you're right. I think it's the district's very busy doing the work. Sometimes it's hard to then quote unquote advertise the work that you're doing. So I really commend the staff and the technology department, because it was amazing to see everything that was on that list. We're starting at kindergarten, like going from K to 12. So
Yeah, I just want to second that. I actually don't often hear about what happens in school from my child, but she was bragging about how knowledgeable she was around digital literacy, and it was really amazing conversation that ended up at the dinner table around some of the topics, and so it was so extensive. I was really impressed, and it was pretty amazing to be able to have a different type of conversation.
That's wonderful.
With our kids. So
That's so great.
doing a
When
great
it
job.
transfers in learning, that's success.
Yeah.
Dr. Cham, you mentioned there's a committee that's looking into digital device literacy usage. How's that committee? Is that a in-school committee from faculty, or who's on the committee?
I think that's still in the process of being put together. Mr. Llewellyn is heading that up. I think we wanted to get school up and running, and he's going to be assembling. I'm confident it will be a shared stakeholder committee, probably predominantly internal folks, but I do know they plan to involve students as well. I don't know to what degree they're going to tap into parents as well. I think it's likely predominantly internal.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Board of Education committee reports. We had finance audit, I don't know.
I mean, I think we covered audit pretty thoroughly.
Most of it, yep.
On finance committee, we met with an advisor that the district has retained to help plan through the various sort of strategies as it relates to capital projects and borrowing. There are two sort of tranches of debt coming up, and there are kind of different ways in which we could, the district could borrow, over the coming years, interacting with that debt coming, maturing in ways that would have different implications for our ability to spend money, our ability to tax. So lots of moving pieces and just a general high-level discussion around some of the strategies that we could deploy.
Yes, and we'll have a board meet, at our next board meeting, we'll have time dedicated to
Yes.
talking about that in more detail.
Yeah, the same representative from Capital Markets will be in attendance that night. We didn't know, we're still working out, I think, if it's in person or remote. But yeah, to present, to share the same information and to provide the full board the opportunity for that discussion.
Okay. I don't think did we have any other committees? No.
I don't think so. I think we're just, and I would say we are just getting a lot of these up and running. We're waiting for one more piece of puzzle for the administrative membership, and then I think, I know that emails are already going out with those first rounds of meetings. So I just wanted to add to, because a few questions did come. We had so many people apply, so thank you to the community. I know Jackie has already mentioned this as well. I just wanted to reiterate that too. It's always a difficult decision. So what we try to do is strike a balance between folks who have been on the committees, so we bring some consistency and experience and depth of the committees, but also to bring some new voices into the mix. So if you weren't seated on a committee, we're very sorry. We appreciate you taking the time to throw your hat in the ring. We encourage you to keep doing that, whether it's committees or your school PTAs. Lots of opportunities to continue to be involved, and we'll look forward to those committees getting up and running, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to report on within the next month.
Thank you. We can move to 3.5, Assistant Superintendent's Update on Personal Growth and Achievement.
Thank you and good evening. So as I spend more time here in Pelham, I continue to be impressed with the amazing things that are going on across the district. One element that seems to span all subject and grade levels is a commitment to engaging students in authentic learning experiences that connect their learning in the classroom to the community and the real world. Research strongly supports the importance in this and fostering deeper engagement, improved understanding, and long-lasting knowledge retention, as well as the fostering of those ever-important transferable skills that students can use in school, in one classroom, in another, and then beyond. So through that lens, I'll share some of the highlights of what's been going on in the district for the past 2 weeks, which haven't been full 2 weeks, but and even beyond that. So as we spoke about a little earlier, and we had the students here tonight, which was awesome. 13 students will be participating in the area all-state ensembles this fall in symphony orchestra, string orchestra, concert band, mixed choir, and treble choir. All of these students were chosen for these ensembles based on their solo performances, NYSSMA performances last spring. And then we honored tonight the 3 students who were admitted to all-state. Gracie Kiami, Samantha Bonanno, and Elliot Levine, who was first an alternate, but now formally accepted for the trumpet. In the fine arts, Halloween window painting is tomorrow. 65 AP students, advanced art students, paint the windows of the storefronts on Wolf's Lane, so that will be going on tomorrow afternoon. Hope to provide some photos of that. And thanks to the PTAs for funding the necessary supplies for this endeavor. And then this past Wednesday, working artist Anna Conway visited AP art classes to talk about her work and her process as a professional artist. The AP history and AP art and advanced art students are taking a trip to the Met on October 24th. 8th grade Studio in Art had a trip to the Met on September 26th, and will go on another trip on November 7th to Kikuit, the Rockefeller Estate in Sleepy Hollow. Over 250 people attended, because it was elementary students, so 250 probably includes parents. The first STEM movie night on Monday, they screened The Iron Giant at the Pelham Picture House, thanks to the Picture House and the Kelton Family Grant and Mindset for supporting this experience for students. In our world language program, really proud of our foreign language in the elementary schools team. A world language coordinator from Jericho, Long Island, heard about the great work that they're doing here in Pelham and invited them to provide professional learning to their staff in Long Island. And so they did that today in a presentation, a professional learning entitled Valuable Routines for the Beginning of FLES Class. So kudos to the team for that. Everyone is just really excited in the World Language Department to have the return of the International Dinner, and that will be held on November 7th. More details to come. And then for Hispanic Heritage Month, students in Spanish 4 honors and SUPA researched and gave presentations in Spanish on prominent Hispanic figures in the United States. Spanish 4 classes are exploring and presenting about the many contributions of famous Hispanics. And then also in middle school French class, they hosted a teacher from French Guiana as a guest speaker, and he spoke about his life in French Guiana and his teaching experiences. And then in PE classes, I'll highlight some 5th graders. 5th graders across Pelham are doing some awesome things. They're gathering their own fitness data and then communicating their results in a variety of graphs and visual models. They will eventually use the data from this data collection to inform the creation of their 5th grade fitness programs, and they will set goals across the year, and in the springtime they will evaluate their own results, and in the process learn fitness vocabulary as well as how to perform exercises with the correct form, with quality over quantity being at the forefront. And then lastly, last night was elementary curriculum night held at Prospect Hill School for all parents and families in grades K through 5. Dr. Callahan, Ms. Short, and Ms. Del Mastro welcomed parents in the beginning with a broad overview of science, social studies, and technology education in Pelham. And then parents were invited to attend breakout sessions led by our math staff developer, Beth Finkelstein, and our ELA staff developer, Kate Alex. The care and thoughtfulness that went into the team and that they put into every detail gave parents a real glimpse into the student's life and world at school. And it was clear to me, and I'm sure to the other parents, that our students are in the hands of these talented professionals who are deeply committed to using research-based practices to create the best and most supportive learning environments possible. So thanks to the team for creating such a great experience for parents. That's it.
And I don't know if you've seen it before, but you're going to love the painting, the Halloween painting.
I know, I'm going. I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent's update on belonging and wellness.
Hi, good evening. So, in addition to spending a lot of my time paying attention to compliance and law and the legal part of special education, we also closely in the department watch numbers and trends. And we're probably going to start budget development next month. So in thinking about what's coming ahead, I did want to share with the board some of the things that we're seeing very early on already regarding trend-wise with our CPSE students. For those of you that were on the board last year, you knew we had a pretty large CPSE amount of students that were coming in this year, and we had to talk about whether we were opening a second 812 section for our special classes. The 812 class that we do have in Colonial is full, and while we had some additional students and considered opening a second class, those students had very high needs, and we did end up sending them to out-of-district programs. And when we talk about high needs, we talk about students with pretty significant physical disabilities, who need environments that we may not be set up to have. Looking ahead at next year, we already know that our numbers in CPSC, we have about 35 students transitioning from CPSC to CSE. Some of those students may be declassified on that road from preschool to general education to school age, but we do know that we do have quite a number of students who will be transitioning needing services. And of that number, some of them are pretty significant in their needs. So we may be at the place again when we're planning for next year, thinking about the possibility of an additional 812 class. So I wanted to put that on the board's radar in lieu of the presentations. We were talking about facilities use, this lovely presentation here, because the challenge also is if we have to add another class, where? In what building? So that's something that we're going to need to take a look at and watch this closely as it unfolds. And as I get more of a handle on this with Dr. Ribeiro and we watch how these students progress through the year and what their needs might be, we'll try to give as accurate projections to the board as possible.
Tracy, just a quick question. In speaking with your colleagues around the region, are other districts seeing similar patterns?
Very much so. The CPSC numbers are growing. They're quite large. In fact, it's also causing a bit of a challenge at the state level, at the CPSC level. There's not enough providers. Dr. Ribeiro was on a call, I think last week, with Marina Yogel, who heads CPSC for the county, and Kate Middleman, who is an assistant commissioner at the county. And basically the message was we're struggling with providers, and if we need providers, school districts, you better look to hiring related service providers to support students with CPSC needs. And that's not something we've planned for or funded for. I've reached out to Marina Yogel to have a conversation a little bit more in depth about what that might be. What could happen is we could become a CPSE vendor, which would still allow us to get some reimbursement back from the county because they can't provide providers. But the overall trend, it's a growing number, growing population. There aren't providers out there. I'm not quite sure what the trends are about. I don't know if this is still off of a COVID bubble and young students who weren't able to have a true preschool experience, but there's also other trends we see, which is a high number of students with significant disabilities, nonverbal, physical disabilities, autism. So, from a global kind of sociological medical standpoint, I don't know what that's about, but yes, numbers are growing.
And just for folks who may not know, the responsibility, CPSE is Committee for Preschool Education. It's our responsibility to find those students and to oversee programs.
Right, we do all of the
pays
CSE.
for
We have all of the CSE responsibility. We have all of the
child finder.
responsibility to manage getting them into programs, but the county pays for their services. However, when there aren't enough providers, that doesn't
Relinquish our
indemnify the school
responsibility.
district's responsibility
Right.
to come up with a solution.
Right.
And we've been going down this road for about 3 years. So
one solution might be having another classroom, is what you're
So that's our kids transitioning. I'm talking about even the CPSC kids
beforehand, yes.
who we've never really had to jump in and support financially with services. We may be looking at that. So our own physical therapists, our own speech pathologists having to provide these related services because the agencies
They
are
don't have
not
anyone.
able to do it, and the problem is also the reimbursement rates for the county are low. So they can't hire providers.
But do we have enough, like our own people who can then do that besides the work we have them doing today?
I'd have to look at the volume of need. My knee-jerk answer would be probably not. Now, we could look to, again, hire our own, or we do have some of our own agencies that we use on the school age side that we could say, hey, can you help us on CPSC? And again, but we want to become a provider so that this county can reimburse us in some way for the money we're going to lay out for servicing those students.
So if we hire our own, we could possibly then bill back.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. But
this is
if
all-
we hire our own, we are also talking about health
Benefits.
insurance,
Yep.
benefits. So it's going to be sort of a cost analysis, what makes the most sense to remedy this particular challenge for us.
Yes, this is all very preliminary, but Tracy's been doing a lot of deep thinking about it, and
I don't
proactive
sleep.
thinking.
But
Right.
it's good to think about it now because we kind of start discussing budgets very soon.
Very
In
s-
order to
very soon.
prepare, right, in order to prepare for the following year.
And,
Do any of
and the students that are transitioning who may have us tip to another class, that's what we're going to look at. I need to get a sense of who those kids are, what their needs are. Can we open another class? Yes, but the question I said to Dr. Champ the other day is where?
Which
what?
we'll talk about at
Yeah,
another time.
you know, so we're gonna have to figure that out.
Well,
For
and-
the, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and that's short term, right? Like you said, if there's a trend, what does that look like 3-5 years from now?
Correct, yeah, and that's, I think, what we're all wondering.
Right, and I
Is this a
think-
bubble, or is this
Right,
the
and
new normal?
the conversation for you all as a board, as you start to grapple about your facilities and bond discussions, and the other thing too is, you know, I mean, this is not my realm, this is for you guys to decide, but we want some breathing room too, right? Because if we keep reacting and trying to jimmying things, that isn't a sustainable answer either. So when it comes time, I think, to think long-term about facilities, how do we either have contingencies, we always talk about money contingencies. Can we have space contingencies? Like, how do we have this ability to expand and contract when needed?
So I think-
For the 812 classes, putting aside space, does that require special staffing? Like, is it beyond just a regular elementary school special ed teacher, or is that the sort of pool that you pull from?
Right, I mean, it would be a special education teacher, right, that has that certification, but if we would have to hire someone because we're adding a new class, we're going to want to look for someone who has got experience in a specific wheelhouse with students that, you know, have more challenging developmental disabilities, again, nonverbal, using AAC communication devices, who have physical needs. And then on top of that, too, depending on the needs, it's not just equipping a classroom with typical furniture. Some of our kids have things called Riften chairs, which are specialized chairs that lift them if they don't have trunk control or physical control, depending on a medical condition, help them sit up.
We talked about the hearing assistance for some students, right? The
Right,
special.
yeah, so, right, depending on the needs. We have a lot of students right now that we've had to buy iPads for communication purposes, nonverbal, so we have systems where they have touch chat and other things that allow them to communicate with the use of icons. So, it's great, it helps the kids, and it's a wonderful opportunity to get them to communicate. Just continuing with special education, our secondary ICT co-teaching schedule is scheduled for this Friday. In addition, I wanted to mention that Greg Lau, our secondary supervisor of special education, he's working in collaboration with his colleagues in Scarsdale, Bronxville, and Tuckahoe in organizing a OPWDD transition fair. So that's Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, and that's organizing agencies that work with a very special population to speak with families about recreation opportunities. That could be after-school clubs, that could be summer camps, that could be dance, that could be music, anything that might be available to them that is funded through Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, but to give that population of students more of an enriched experience to get out there and do things that typical students do. So I thank him for organizing that. That's going to be held November 12th at Scarsdale High School this year.
Can I just take a second to, I want to just acknowledge Greg and thank him for doing that work, because I know there are quite a few families in Pelham who are using or wanting to access or wanting to know more about how to access OPWDD and what that can do and mean for their families, and most importantly for their children to have that enriched experience and have access to that. So this is a really important thing that Greg is doing, and thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg, for doing this and spending the time, because there are many, many families in Pelham who access OPWDD. So this is really nice for them.
In 504 world, on Monday, October 7th, at our administrative cabinet meeting, I invited our new 504 consultant, Stephanie Lopez from Circuit Consulting, and Stephanie Roebuck, a lot of Stephanies, from Keen and Bean, to talk to the administrative team around 504 accommodation plans. It's been several years since there's been a deep dive in professional development on 504 in the district. And with the increase that we've been seeing, especially at the secondary level in 504 plans, I think when I did analysis a couple of years ago, it was about a 37% increase alone in secondary, which is high, but trend-wise very similar to what we're seeing across the county. I thought it was a good opportunity and a relevant opportunity at this point to revisit this work. So the focus of the work with the consultant and the legal team will be to make sure that we're all having the same understanding about 504 and the compliance guidelines that direct us in that world, who's eligible for plans, providing professional development to the staff that chair meetings, how to develop a well-written plan, evolution of plans, and of course, compliance and best practices. So I'm excited about that work, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to just really re-engage and make sure we're doing the best possible work we can in that area. In terms of SCL, on October 1st, there was a parent presentation that was hosted by Pelham Together with Mike Domritz from the Center for Respect. The focus of his work was around dating, intimacy, safety, and relationships. And then he shared with parents what he was going to speak to the students about in the assemblies the next day, and engaged us in conversations about how to talk with children about the very important topic of intimacy and respectful relationships. It was, I don't know if anyone saw it, it was a great event for parents. He was amazing, engaging. And then I didn't get a chance to see the assemblies, but the feedback that I saw that Laura shared with him, because he does give students and parents sort of exit surveys, he looks for certain percentages, was so positive. The kids seemed to have gotten so much out of it. It was a tremendous event, so thanks to Pelham Together for pulling that together.
Which age group was this for?
High school,
Was it all the students in the high school, all the grades?
yes, 9 through 12. Mm-hmm.
I heard great feedback about that event from the parents and the students who went to the assembly. So
Yeah,
it was a
I don't want to
wonderful
interrupt,
thing.
but I can add
Sure.
that. Well, one, I want to thank the Pelham Education Foundation for funding it, but so I was there for the student, well, I was there for both, but for the student assemblies, given the topic, it was, I didn't know what to expect, how the students would react, and they were completely mesmerized by him. He's an amazing speaker. He speaks across college campuses. He speaks for businesses. But he's very engaging, and they ask lots of questions. They wanted to take selfies with him at the end, and he gave away books and T-shirts. But he has them he did it for the parents as well, but an exit survey for the students. And they responded, I don't have the exact number, but it was something above 97% with all these questions, such as, I will let friends know that I'm here for them should they need support because of something that's happened that was inappropriate in a relationship. Or I will ask before I make a move, basically, is, the way he was, talking about it. So it seemed very, very positive. It was
Yeah,
great to watch.
I wish I had had the opportunity to see him when my kids were teenagers, because he really took a topic that most of us growing up, I don't know how well your parents did with that. It's a hard conversational, right? He really gave some amazing concrete ways to talk to your kids on this topic and how to do it and when to do it.
Yeah.
He was great. I think he's a keeper and a bringer-backer.
Yeah.
Whenever you can.
Yeah, and I know I wear a few hats these days, but just commending the district for these conversations, I know, and we've been trying to bring him to the area or to the schools for a year. So it took some time to get him here. But right away, the high school was on board, and thank you, Tracy, for being on board with having him come talk about a topic that's not easy to talk about. And I would say at home it's not easy, but most schools are not touching on this necessarily in the way that he did. So
He did it in such a great way.
yeah,
I mean,
and
really
his big
relatable.
advice to parents was don't, that night, ask, so how was the assembly? Because they're not going to want to tell you about it. But he gave great advice for parents in general.
great.
So
So on the heels of that, too, on Monday, Mr. Llewellyn, Miss Sabia, Mr. Farrell, Leela Zahed, our high school social worker, did meet with Anne-Marie and Laura and Kim Traposo from Pelham Together. As we have a partnership with Pelham Together for a series of 4 parent events during the course of the year. And we also have access to additional mental health support through social work interns that Pelham Together lends us. So we're very excited about the partnership. For example, one of their interns is bilingual. Last year, she ran groups for our E&L students in middle school and high school, and Miriam Hagashi, who's the secondary E&L teacher, said it was great. It was so helpful for the students. They really wanted to have a place to be able to talk in their native language with someone who's a native language speaker about what their experience has been. So we're going to utilize that person again, another intern that is bilingual this year. So it's a great opportunity for us to tap in additional resources. We talked about what were going to be the 4 parent events this year. So we know that one of them is already underway, the digital citizenship. That's a series of 3 virtual. We're hoping that the last one will be in person. And I think that topic is really relevant. It's on friendship and texting.
friendship and texting, yeah.
So-
We're figuring out if that can be in person.
In person. And some of the other topics that we're thinking about, again, and, it's what is relevant to us and Pelham Together listening to what we're seeing boots on the ground and then helping us find speakers. We're going to talk about another topic, maybe developing our children as leaders. How do we do that? Anxiety and school avoidance, because there's a couple of other big ticket items that we're seeing. In the counseling department, again, as I mentioned, we're getting ready for PSAT administration on October 16th. Again, all sophomores and juniors are expected to take the exam. I wanted to remind everyone, October 21st is our joint college fair with Pelham and Eastchester. That's going to be held 7 to 8:30 in the middle school gym. Another thing I wanted to mention, as of July 1st, the Board of Regents amended a regulation about the completion of federal and state financial aid applications and reporting that we have to do to the state regarding our seniors who apply for either FAFSA, DREAM, which is another financial aid for relief in education for alien minors, and also anyone senior who's chosen to waive an application. So we are required now, as of July 1st of this year, to report to state ed at the end of the year of our seniors who applied and what did they apply for. In addition, as part of the amendment, we also have to make sure that we are providing resources to our families on FAFSA and how to navigate that very complex process. So Mr. Farrell and I met today about how we're going to tackle making sure we are hitting all the points we need to hit as far as compliance with the regulations. Also, just to mention too, Mr. Farrell's meeting with Civics this Friday to plan their series of career seminars for this year. What they do is they look at the career interest inventories that were completed by the sophomores last year. What are the things our students are interested in? And they take that data and they help build panels for our kids so we're able to provide experiences in areas that they want to learn more about. Just the last bit, also in the area of nursing, our nurses wanted to remind us that while pandemic is behind us, October 15th is Global Hand Washing Day. Each year, the CDC works with their global partners and colleagues to highlight hand washing and raise awareness. It's still the best way, good hand washing with soap and water, the most simple and effective way to stop the spread of germs. So all of the nurses are working with their principals to make sure they're making announcements in the building that day, sending information in the principal newsletters to remind our students good hygiene is the best way to stay healthy. And that's it.
Thank you.
PSA, yeah.
Okay, we can move to Executive Director's update on human resources and leadership.
Thank you. Good evening. So as I mentioned at our last meeting, I was able to partner with PTAC to disseminate information in our, regarding our lunch recess monitor positions. To be honest, I'm really overwhelmed with gratitude for their partnership and the incredible graphic that they actually created to help advertise this vital position. So my heartfelt thanks to PTAC for this help. Also, you'll see later in this agenda our recommendation to appoint Gabriela Borges, who is our middle school social work leave replacement. We're really excited to have her join us. You'll also see the extension of a few of our current leave replacements for a little bit longer in the school year. As Dr. Champ mentioned, October shines a spotlight on two major staff celebrations. So October 2nd was National Custodians Day. I echo Dr. Champ's sentiments regarding our incredible custodians and who are really the unsung heroes of our schools. Their tireless efforts ensure that our learning environments are clean, safe, welcoming for our students and for our staff alike, and from maintaining spotless classrooms to creating a healthy atmosphere, including hand washing. Our custodians play a crucial role in supporting our students' education and fostering really that positive school culture that we also want in our schools. I'm sure the board joins me in expressing our heartfelt appreciation for their hard work and dedication. Each October, we also celebrate National Principals Month, which honors the indispensable role principals play in shaping welcoming, vibrant, and data-driven educational environments that prioritize relationships and empower both teachers and students to thrive. It was an honor to accompany Mr. Johnson to Albany, but I think it's also important to recognize and how incredibly fortunate we are to have the most dedicated, collaborative, and visionary principals here in Pelham in all 4 of our elementary schools, in our middle school, and in our high school. Our Pelham principals have this unwavering commitment and determination that inspires all of us. They are leaders that embody the essence of lifelong learning, serving as role models for both students and staff, and their transformative leadership has left a lasting mark on the core of teaching and learning within our schools, with their influence reaching every aspect of the educational experience and significantly enhancing student success. It has truly been a privilege over the last 9 years now to work alongside such exceptional principals in our shared pursuit of excellence for all students. As we recognize their contributions this month, I encourage all of our principals to actually take a moment to reflect on that profound impact that they've made both within and beyond the classroom. So that's it for my report today.
Thank you, and I want to give a big thanks to our custodians and to our principals. I hope they enjoyed their day and the principal. It's Principals Month, right?
It is,
Principals
yes.
Month.
They get a
Yes.
day in
The
the
whole
spring
month,
Yes.
also.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, Assistant Superintendent's update on facilities and sustainable learning environments.
All right, thank you very much. And obviously, earlier this evening, we heard about our annual audit and Scott Oling from PKF O'Connor Davies. So that was really great to hear that. That followed our audit and finance committee meeting that we had last week, where we talked about this external audit as well as the beginning phases of bond feasibility. And at the next board meeting, we'll have Rick Yancey from Capital Markets Advisors to provide much of the same information to the board and to the greater community, kind of explain the process of that we look at as part of the financing and sizing up the size, kind of sizing up what a bond could look like, and looking at the incremental tax impact to the taxpayer. And I think, one of the things you really want to look to do is try to minimize that impact. So he'll be able to share some of that. Special thanks to everyone in the district, really, about getting the external audit out. Certainly, you heard about all the great people in the business office, and they're terrific, but we also have to thank all of our partners throughout the district, because we're calling them up, asking them about open purchase orders, where the bills are, if they need to roll it over, and everything else. And everybody really works hard for us to get all that paperwork in. So it's nice to take the credit, and it's also great to work with good people. So we're happy to have that, and I want to make sure we acknowledge those people too. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. Today we had our first lockdown drill at the high school, middle school. I think it went successful. One of the nice things we've been able to do is partnering with our local public safety agencies. We had Pelham Manor police officer on site, as well as Village of Pelham police officers. I think as we think about this, it's that intercooperation between our municipalities. God forbid a real event were to happen. Certainly our closest neighbors are going to show up, and it's a great opportunity for those people to be able to walk through our schools and gain the familiarity. And that's, again, something we've tried to do just to kind of increase our safety posture. And the working together is very positive, and certainly we're very grateful for that as well. Next week, I was invited to Flower Power for the cup of coffee. Dr. Champ and I always have a joke. Our bets are always over a cup of coffee, so we'll see what's going to happen. But certainly, it's very nice to be invited, and we'll see how long the bottomless cup of coffee lasts to talk about the building conditions survey. So I think it'll be a nice opportunity. Last year, I was able to go to talk about safety as well, so I'll appreciate that, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about at the following meeting for that. And on this evening's meeting, really, all the things we're asking the boards to take action on are related to the external audit and that corrective action plan, which I mentioned before. All these items, once approved, are then submitted to the State Office of the Comptroller, so that we make sure everything is on file with the state, and then we also put these items up on the district's webpage, on the business office page, as we have in all previous years. So that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think there are any, but any communications and comments from the public? No. Okay. I think we could take, do I have a motion, and then we can talk about it. A motion to approve 5.1 through 5.6?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Jim, you just went through what some of these are. Is there anything else you want to point out? And otherwise, I'll go to the donation as well.
No, thank you. I mean, we've got a budget transfer, just as beginning of the year budget transfer. We've got the detail in the backup there, and then the rest of the audit reports, and a resolution for a hearing officer, which is something we do regularly every year.
Okay. We have a donation from the Pelham Education Foundation. So be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the monetary donation of $4,079.86 for grant number 2501, Unplug and Engage, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Pelham Education Foundation. The Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District hereby authorizes the district to enter into any related agreements to procure the goods or services required under the terms of the grant. So thank you to the Pelham Education Foundation. Are there any comments or questions?
No, but not comments, well, yes, comments. I'm just reading the letter, and it looks like it's for 2 ping pong tables. Am I getting that right? And ping pong paddles and balls and Adirondack chairs?
Yes.
That's great.
It's pretty cool.
I love that. That is fantastic.
That's part of the efforts that
Yeah.
the high school is taking to provide more opportunities for students to engage
Yeah,
face-to-face.
that's great.
Ping pong.
You can grow up and become a pickleball player after.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe there'll be a club,
Yeah.
and then it could turn into a sport. Another, activities
Another
people could do.
Olympic activity.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motions carry. Okay, so next, we could take 6.1, I'll take a motion to approve 6.1 to 6.4.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None? Okay, 7.1, can I have a motion to approve a Schedule D?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. 8.1, do we have new business? No? We have no communications and comments from the public. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Madam President?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Have a great night.